Last June, David Dorn, 77 years old, a retired police captain, was killed by looters during a George Floyd riot, again in St. Louis. But he has not been forgotten. In fact, the President of the United States spoke directly to his widow and to Brian Powell, son of Captain Dorn, at the Republican National Convention held at the White House later that summer.
Here tonight is the grieving family of retired Police Captain David Dorn, a 38-year veteran of the St. Louis Police Department, a great man and a highly respected man by all. In June, Captain Dorn was shot and killed as he tried to protect a store from rioters and looters, or as the Democrats would call them, peaceful protesters. They call them peaceful protesters. We're honored to be joined tonight by his wonderful wife, Ann, and beloved family members, Brian and Kaylin. To each of you, we will never forget the heroic legacy of Captain David Dorn. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
And we are joined right now by Ann Dorn and Brian Powell. Welcome to you both. I'm glad to see you. I thought that was one of the most powerful things that could ever be done for a fallen hero. And I so appreciate seeing you now. Mrs. Dorn, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. Thank you very much.
You bet. Brian?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there too, just taking it day by day. So
in a weird way, this is kind of coming full circle. Your father, your husband, died in the aftermath of George Floyd's death, the riots that happened, and now we'll have a verdict possibly this week. And it's widely expected, anticipated, some are hoping for it, that we'll have widespread riots all over again. And it seems to me, Mrs. Dorn, that very little is being done to stop it.
Exactly. It's being encouraged by some politicians, which is just beyond me, that they would encourage people to protest and act out violently. There is no recourse for violence. You can't get anything accomplished with violence. It just precipitates more violence.
They're already talking about security, and look, we should have enhanced security, but again, there's no one's saying, like, maybe we shouldn't break buildings and hurt people if we don't get the verdict we want in this case. I want to show you this from the news this morning.
Tensions are high, and the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is calling for calm. After 45 witnesses and hours of testimony and cross-examination, Minneapolis and state leaders are bracing for unrest. National Guard troops are deployed throughout Minneapolis, working alongside state and city police officers. The governor has requested more law enforcement from neighboring states. Minneapolis public schools officials are also bracing for the verdict, switching students to remote learning later this week for their safety.
I guess I'm bracing for something bad happening to an innocent person, like your father, like your husband. And Brian, again, the lack of proactive, let's stop this kind of positioning is baffling to me.
Yeah, it is very baffling because there's nothing wrong with going out peaceful protesting and everything. But when it turns to looting and rioting, that's something that we can't stand for. I mean, it's unnecessary. And a lot of people get hurt. And that fretful morning, June 2nd, my dad lost his life because of some looting and rioting instead of peaceful protests.
So, the President of the United States, President Trump, knows who you are, learned of David Dorn's death, followed it very closely. You're of national importance right now, and it's not inconceivable that the Bidens might be aware of you. And I'm just wondering if you would have a message for him at this moment. I said earlier in the show, I think he should be jumping up and down, telling people to, not riot. And I'm not getting that message. Mrs. Dorn.
No, there should be a nationwide outcry for peace, for calm, wait for the verdict, let the courts work this out. We don't need any more lives lost. We don't need any more businesses destroyed, families torn apart. I mean, not only does our family suffer, but anybody who's known David, who's touched by him, who's ever worked for him, their life was torn apart. And then the young man who killed him, his family's now suffering because he's going away. You know, it just destroys too many people.
Stephen Cannon, 24 years old. You mentioned he was charged with first-degree murder, first-degree robbery, first-degree burglary, 3 counts of armed criminal action. So yes, his life is over, and quite frankly, that's appropriate. He should be punished. What do you know about what happened to your husband that night? He was trying to protect a business, his employer, correct?
Yes, Lee was his friend, and he was the response person for any alarms that went off in the business. And if an alarm went off, he went, but it was usually due to a storm or a motion sensor because a mouse or something set off. If he'd have known the building had been breached that night, he would not have gone in alone. He would have waited for the police to respond. You know, and then to be confronted by armed protesters who are just trying. I mean, the only thing they're going to get out of that store is maybe a couple silver chains and a used TV. Everything else is locked away at night. There was nothing of true value in there. And my husband lost his life over a $20 TV.
Governor DeSantis is, I think, just signed into law something that will make rioting and damaging public property even a more serious crime than it already is. This is Governor DeSantis from earlier.
If you riot, if you loot, if you harm others, particularly if you harm a law enforcement officer during one of these violent assemblies, you're going to jail. We're going to hold you accountable, and we're not going to end up like Portland, where this is just a daily occurrence where these people are doing this. They get arrested, they have their mugshot taken, and then they get put right back on the street to do it again. So I think this bill that I'll sign into law shows the state of Florida takes public safety very seriously.
It sounds, Brian, like a step in the right direction, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's one step that we're getting closer to helping come to resolve the situations and issues like this. So that is amazing. Now, if everybody else jump on board, I think we'll be headed definitely down the right path.
You know, when you get to be the age of 77 and you're a retired cop, you don't think you're going to die in the line of duty, you know, on the job as a security agent. It's just horrific. But we do have some nice pictures of David, and I'd like to show some of them to the folks. And if you don't mind, Ann, could you just tell us a little bit about what he was like? It seemed like you guys socialized quite a bit and had some adventures. Tell us about him, please. Tell us about him, please.
Dave he was a lovable guy. We loved to travel. He loved his children. He adored his grandchildren. His smile and his laugh were infectious. We've been together 30 years, and, his children became my children, Brian and the other kids, I just adore and love as my own. And anybody that worked for David, yes, David is a black man, but he was blue through and through. He was a policeman. He was a policeman's policeman. He would take care of anybody. Officers, he didn't care what color they were, what nationality they were. He loved everybody, and he went out of his way to help people. But again, like I said, we love to travel, and Brian knows that. I mean, we were on vacation more than we were home usually. Right. And
by the way,
he loved Jamaica.
Jamaica, huh?
Jamaica was his favorite place.
One of these days, I want to get there. So Sergeant Ann Dorn, by the way, listen, I know you're currently on active duty with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. They've been good enough to allow you media appearances from time to time. I know that can be touchy, but just in your day-to-day work, how are law enforcement being received on the streets of St. Louis? Here, I tell you, they've been stigmatized, and I know they're heroes, but they're not treated that way.
No, they're not here either. Unfortunately, the officers are going to get a bad rap. One bad apple ruins a whole bunch. And we really have very dedicated officers that come to work every single day and do their job with dignity and respect for the people. They really want to go out there and help people. They just are scrutinized for every little thing they do. Unfortunately, we have some politicians that don't support us as well. And, we come to the aid of every single person out on the street. We help them. And what my job is to help officers. And officers across the country aren't getting the help we need to stay mentally sound and stable. And we have to start taking care of our own law enforcement to prevent, things from happening. If you have an unstable officer, then they're not going to be able to do their job on the street as well as they should. And so we really need to take care of our own.
And yes, absolutely. And we got to take care of that dog too. All right, we're going to leave it there. Sergeant Ann Dorn, we appreciate it. And I'm glad to talk to you. I always really wanted to, especially after that beautiful moment at the White House last summer. Thank you very much. So sorry for your loss. And Brian Powell, thank you, sir, very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
To be continued.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.